Welcome back to Halftime Speech. Today we are going to be predicting the 2022 through 2023 All NBA teams. Um, so this year's All NBA teams, there was some surprises on there. LeBron was pretty low, even though he had a very good individual season. But you know, so any year, like anybody could have a surprise season and come out of nowhere. Like Julius Randle had an amazing season and he was an All NBA player, or Pascal Siakam was an All NBA player. So that doesn't mean that these are going to be right because obviously a player can come out of nowhere. So let's get it started. With my two guards on the third team, I had Ja Morant and Kyrie Irving. With Ja Morant, I feel like, you know, I think the NBA loves Ja Morant too much to leave him off of this. I heavily considered putting Paul George over Ja Morant. Um, but I think, the Grizzlies are a good team and they're going to be one of the highest seeds in the West again this year just because their roster is so good and they can't, have anybody or they have to have somebody on the NBA, All NBA team if their record is so good. So I chose Ja Morant to represent the Grizzlies. And then Kyrie Irving, I feel like with Kevin Durant probably leaving, he's going to have the team all to himself, and he's going to average some crazy numbers. Maybe not have all the team success, um, but I feel like his numbers are going to be very, very good this year.
Yeah, completely agree. Do you want to open up my slide? Because I think we have some very similar ones later on. I got Trey Young and Jalen Brunson. Some people definitely question the Brunson pick. Trey Young is self-explanatory. The Hawks got some amazing pickups. DeJounte Murray, one of the great pickups they got this year. Their team record is going to be great. Trey Young has been having great stats the past few seasons.
Amazing.
Hawks definitely making amazing. Yes, indeed. Yes, I know you love this one. Um,
No, I don't.
with
It's too
Jalen
low.
Brunson,
Should be on
with
second or first.
with Jalen Brunson being on the Knicks, I think he's going to be an insane help to the offensive help they need. He was the same way with the Mavs, but they obviously had Luca on the helping side. Now with Jalen Brunson being on the Knicks, he's going to be one of the main scoring options, and I think they're going to have a better record than they did last year. They're going to get some better pickups. They're going to make some more trades. Hopefully they get some better. Hopefully they get this Donovan Mitchell trade. It'll be nice having a double guard, a scoring ability. This is definitely going to be great playoff depth. But alone stats, individual, I think Jalen Brunson makes the third team over some very questionable people.
So, are you predicting a Jalen Brunson All Star as well?
I Yeah, I could potentially I could
I
see him
mean,
getting votes.
if he's on the
I
All
could see him getting
NBA,
votes.
if he's on an All NBA team, I mean, obviously he's got to have good enough. I mean,
There's a lot of guards out there though to
yes,
take that.
but
Like he's on
but
third.
there have been. I mean, there have been a few players in the past that have been on All NBA teams, but have not been an All Star. So
Which is really good.
honestly, I did not have Jalen Brunson. Uh, I know what a shocker! I didn't have Jalen Brunson on my list, but I honestly, I think Paul George or I really don't understand. Jalen Brunson's not going to be on an All NBA team. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I mean, he could surprise us, but I really don't believe in him that much to be an All NBA
I
player.
see. I see.
All right, let's move on to my forwards. I had Carl Anthony Towns and Zion Williamson. Carl Anthony Towns will be considered a forward this year because Rudy Gobert is now on the team, and Cat will be playing the power forward spot alongside him, so he will be considered a forward. And then Zion Williamson, if he comes back healthy, which he looks good. I'm not gonna lie, he does look, he looks fit, and it looks like the injury rehab has gone well. So I think Zion Williamson's going to take the Pelicans to a pretty good seed and maybe get them to the second round of the playoffs. And Zion's going to earn his first All NBA team. And I think Carl Anthony Towns is going to do what Carl Anthony Towns has been doing his whole career, is just being a great uh, shooter and puts up very high points per game.
Agreed. Again, I have Carlton Towns in my All NBA. Zion also having a comeback season. Our first season we've seen of him, amazing player, All Star worthy. Carlton Towns, obviously another All Star worthy player. He's going to be great at a forward position. I think he's going to do even better this year. The fact that he's now jumped down to a forward. Same thing with Zion. Of him coming back, helping the Pelicans, I think he's also going to have an insane offensive stat sheet too.
All right, let's move on to yours.
Mine was Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum, a net and Celtics thing going on here. Kevin Durant, I feel like no matter where he goes, he's going to be one of the main scorers. Obviously, one of the main people they're going to rely on heavily. And Jason Tatum, he's their franchise player. He's This is self-explanatory why Jason Tatum and KD are on here. People should get it. Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum are their team's best players. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're the best players on their team. No matter where Kevin Durant goes, he's going to be that best player.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree. Just a little spoiler for the rest of my list. I did not have Kevin Durant on there because I kind of feel like this is a Ben Simmons type situation here. Is I feel like he wants out of Brooklyn so bad, and the asking price is so high for Kevin Durant right now that a deal isn't going to get done until the trade deadline, and Kevin Durant's going to hold out and not play until the trade deadline until he gets to his new team. So I just feel like that means Kevin Durant's not going to have enough games played to earn an All NBA team. But maybe there also is the chance that he's like, screw it, I'm just going to play for the Nets until I get traded anyways. And then in that case, I would have him on my All NBA team. Obviously, I'd probably kick off Zion, um, but that's just my prediction. So, and then Jason Tatum, I totally agree. But let's move on to centers. I had Rudy Gobert. I just think that the Timberwolves have been so bad on defense over the past few years, and they're going to add the best defender in the league. And thus their defense is going to be noticeably better, and Rudy Gobert is going to obviously get credit for it because he is a multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, and their defense is going to go from horrendous to pretty good. So I just think he's going to get the recognition for that, as he should.
I completely understand that. You want to put up my slide right here? I'll have a little debate here going on. I was going to put Rudy, but I just think that the fact that you have Carlton Towns paired with Rudy, his stat sheet is going to diminish a little bit. His defensive side is going to stay the same, usually around there. I just think Bam individually is going to have a very similar season. The past he's had, probably a little bit better. I feel like his stat sheet wise is going to be better. Heat usually average a really good record. Their defense is amazing. It's just I just think individually Bam is going to be on here. Due to that fact, he's going to have a better stat sheet and team record than Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I mean, if it really is stats this year, then I could see it. Especially because you know Bam. I don't want to say anything because this is just my thoughts, but Bam could potentially be um, their power forward this year because they do not have a power forward and they have a few centers on the roster. And Bam is a little undersized for a center, so maybe they would slide him over to the four and then have like Yurt Seven or Deadman play their center. I don't know, unless they go out and get a four. But right now the only four on the roster is Nikola Jovic, and he was a late 20s pick and a rookie.
Ooh.
So, but again with Rudy Gobert, his numbers have he hasn't always been a stat pattern. He's never been a stat pattern, and he's been on this team before. So, um, you know even with the not crazy numbers, people have noticed that yes, Rudy Gobert is the best defender in the league, and he deserves to be on the All NBA third. But I can totally see Bam getting it too. I can see it. But let's move on to our second team. I had Trae Young and Luka Doncic. The guards are the most stacked right now. The guards. I mean, I if there was a fourth team, I would have Paul George and Jaylen Brown for sure. But Trae Young has always had great numbers. I mean, in his second season, he averaged 29 and 10. Um, and with I feel like Kyrie Irving and Trae Young, they're both going to put up great numbers and they're going to be battling for the second and third team. But I feel like the moves that the Hawks have made are going to make the Hawks a better team than the Nets, which that's kind of why I have him on the second team and Kyrie on the third team. But I think those could be interchangeable depending on the team record. And then Luka Doncic he's Luka Doncic. I just think the Mavs are they're gonna be a pretty solid seed, make it to the second or third round again. I just don't really like their roster right now. Their roster is kind of mid, other than Luca. Um, they did go
I
out,
completely
yeah,
agree.
they did go out and get Christian Wood, which I think is great for Luca's stats because Luca is going to have a big man that is going to catch lobs and is going to shoot the three. I think Christian Wood is like a lesser John Collins, or maybe like a less highlight worthy version of John Collins. I think they're both like kind of equally good, but I think Christian Woods is a less bouncy John Collins, and I think that's great for a guard to have a forward like that. And I don't really need to explain Luca too much. He's shown that he's an amazing guard and is most likely going to get first or second team this year.
Completely agree on that. We've already talked enough on Trey Young, both of him being on my third and your second. Amazing player, great team. Again, he's going to be on this All NBA team, I believe so heavily. Same goes for Luka Doncic. We've talked about him a great amount. He belongs on the All NBA team due to the fact he's going to be out for blood this year. That's for sure. Now he has another big man, but people have said last year it's what they needed. Luka still needs some more offensive help. He shouldn't be the only reliable source, but the Mavs are definitely working on it slowly and slowly. They're going to have a good record this year. They're going to be a solid seed, which is going to give him the opportunity to be all on the All NBA team. And his stats alone prove enough. He will be in MVP talks usually just because it's Luca and he's that guy. He is him. Now, for my secondary All NBA team, it's Lillard and Kyrie Irving. We've talked on Kyrie Irving, whether he has KD playing for him or not. He's gonna have a great stat sheet, and he's gonna be on here no matter what. To be honest, he's got the team record. If they trade KD if he doesn't play, they trade KD later in the season. They're going to pick up key assets. They're going to get good pieces. Ben Simmons is going to play for the Nets, obviously. I would hope so. So I don't see them being a low seed at all. I feel like they are going to be guaranteed a playoff spot at least. After the KD trade, they're going to have even better pieces to even improve that record. So Kyrie is going to get help either beginning or later in the season. No matter what, is going to get the help. And him alone, if he's just playing by himself, he has all he wants. He has a free roam of just scoring. So his stat sheet alone will look great.
Yeah, I get it. I never said that they were going to be a super low seed. I just said the Hawks were going to be higher, and that's kind of what gave me the edge. But I think the Nets are going to be like a 7-8 seed, which means they're in the play-in, and I think they will win the play-in, and they will move probably to the 7 seed, or but that's just me. They could surprise me if Ben Simmons is healthy and plays. I think they could definitely skip the play-in just barely. But let's move on to forwards. I had LeBron James and Jason Tatum. LeBron James is pretty self-explanatory. He's one of the greatest players of all time. But, he is getting a little older, and that's why I didn't have him on the first team. And the Lakers were horrendous last year, which is also another reason I didn't have him on the first team, and that's a reason he was on the third team this last year. But, you don't really need to say much more than that about LeBron James. Then moving on to Jason Tatum, you had him on your third team, so we talked about him a little bit, but I think the Celtics are one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, you just saw them take the Warriors to 6 games in the finals, so you're going to have a Celtic representing in the All-NBA teams, and Jason Tatum's obviously the best person on the Celtics. Don't even, I know you're not, but I know a lot of people think Jaylen Brown is better for some reason. And I really like Jaylen Brown. He's just not close to Jason Tatum at all. So that's why I had Jason Tatum representing the Celtics here. And he's just going to continue what he's been doing. I don't think he's going to, get significantly better, or I don't think he's going to get worse. I just think he's going to be doing what he has been doing this past couple of years. So
Completely agree. LeBron James is self-explanatory, one of the greatest of all time. Plays the game of basketball extremely well, and he team. Wow, couldn't speak. He treats his team. It's just it sucks that the Lakers had such a low record because he had an amazing season himself. This year, if he's still healthy, he's passing Kareem in all-time points.
I
That's a crazy thing to think
I
about.
think he only needs to average 16.
16.2, I
Yeah, but
believe.
that's if he plays all 82. LeBron's not going to play all 82. I'm just saying this now. LeBron, he's 30. Is he 37 now? I think he's 37 now.
37. But he's also not gonna just only average
Yeah,
16.2.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's almost guaranteed unless like a severe injury happens, which I don't think will because LeBron is very he spends a lot of money
He's very
to
in shape when it
yeah,
comes to keeping his body in check and making sure he doesn't have long-lasting
he
injuries.
spends
At most,
a lot of
he'll miss
money
a few
to
weeks.
keep himself healthy. So I think LeBron is for sure going to pass Kareem this year. Um, he can average like 23, 24 points per game, a little less than he has been, and still, this is considering. I think if the Lakers fluke again like they did last year, he would be on the third team. You could probably move Cat up, in my opinion. Um, but there's a lot of scenarios where anybody could go anywhere. So let's move on.
Agreed.
Let's move on to yours.
My second team, I have Kawhi and Cat. We've talked about Cat. Again, I personally think he's gonna do a little. Since he's paired with Rudy Gobert, I think their team record is gonna be a lot better. And Karl Anthony Towns doesn't have to play the center position, so he moves down to forward. I think that gives him a boost in offensive help. He's gonna be scoring a lot more on that offensive sheet now that he has to worry about guarding people like Embiid and Jokic most of the games. It's gonna be less tougher matchups for him. He doesn't have to wear and tear the rest of the game. Kawhi Leonard, he's coming back. He's pretty self-explanatory himself. An amazing player. The Clippers have a great pair up with him and Paul George. Now John Wall. It's going to be a little more of a heavy season for them. They're going to have a better record, and they're going to make playoffs. I heavily believe that. Kawhi Leonard hasn't had a bad season in a long time. I don't think ever. So having him back is going to be a great season for him, and I think he makes All NBA.
Yeah, I think Clippers are like they're pretty good contenders in my opinion. Uh, and
But we know the Clippers.
oh yeah, they're. I mean, if John Wall, and Kawhi and Paul George both come back or all three come back fully healthy, they're for sure contenders, and I think they will. I think Kawhi could have rushed things, and he could have been back last season, but he didn't want to. Um, they could have made the playoffs as a low seed if he came back, but Kawhi's taking his time, being smart about it, and I think that's going to pay off this year. Paul George came back last year after a pretty big injury. He's going to be good. And John Wall, I don't even think he had an injury last year. I'm pretty sure it was just the Rockets. They suck, and they were like, John Wall, don't even play because we need to develop our young guys. So I don't even think John Wall has been injured since his first year in Houston. So I just think that they are going to be healthy. They're going to surprise everybody, be championship contenders. I think make it to the conference finals against like the Suns or the Warriors or something like that, and be a very high seed. And yeah, I mean, I totally get why Kawhi Leonard's on your list. So let's move on to our centers now. I had Jokic. I mean, a little spoiler again. We both have Jokic and Embiid as our 1 and 2, but I'm pretty sure everybody does. Uh, Jokic has had back-to-back MVP seasons, so I think he's gonna get a little bit of voters fatigue when it comes to awards and stuff. So that's why I had him on the second team below Joel Embiid. Uh, but Jokic and Embiid have been the best two centers in the league for. I mean, it's probably been like 5 years now. It's been just them two being the top two guys. So
Yeah, 100% agree. You can open up mine right now. It's going to be Embiid. They both go hand in hand, really, out of this one. Both MVP finalists. You can't predict next season, but they're both the best player on their team. They're both the main scorers. They're going to be in MVP talks again this year, maybe even top three. Jokic back to back. it's hard to not put him first for me. It's understandable if you put Embiid over him too. It was a super close race last year. I think Embiid possibly could have even had it. Jokic is the best playmaking big in the league. Embiid's one of the most dominant in the league. It's hard to stop.
Oh yeah, I think Jokic even had a better season last year than he did the year prior when he won MVP the first time. So I mean, the reason I had him, on second team, I think even if he has better stats, he's going to be on second team just because the voters fatigue is a real thing, and if you win back to back MVPs, people kind of get tired of you and don't want to give you the awards again. So I think that's just my sole reason in having him on the second team, just because they are so close. That's just the one thing that's breaking the tie. So let's move on to our All NBA first teams. Let's go on to the guards. I had Dame and Steph. Stephen Curry is top 2 point guard of all time, potentially top 1 point guard of all time, depending on who you ask. And Damian Lillard, I'm really predicting an MVP season. If you watched our award predictions, which you should go watch, by the way, Damian Lillard, I had as my MVP, and I had Chauncey Billups as the Coach of the Year, just because I think the Trailblazers are going to surprise everybody when they come back healthy and ready to go this season. And I think Damian Lillard, he could have probably come back at the end of the season last year, kind of like Kawhi, but he was taking his time because the Blazers were already sucking really bad. So he was just like, I'll take this extra time to rehab I forgot what did he injure, or what he had surgery on. I can't remember, but he should
No
be
clue. I don't
fully
remember.
healthy now. Yeah, he should be fully healthy now, and Steph Curry is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, Steph Curry is, like I said, one of the greatest point guards ever. Puts up amazing numbers, has amazing team success. I think it's pretty self-explanatory to have Steph Curry here on the first team.
Yeah, understandable. I completely agree with that. Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic. We've talked about both of them. They're both self-explanatory. They're amazing players. Stephen Curry, greatest three-point shooter of all time. Luka Doncic, best player on his team, most offensive help. Again, both people who are going to be in MVP races this year and the best player on their team. I don't think you can really say much about it. I think they both would deserve a first NBA team.
I mean, it's kind of crazy how, there's 6 guard spots that are able to be filled on the All NBA teams, and all 6 that we've had were point guards. And 5 of our point guards were the same point guards. And then I had Ja Morant, you had Jalen Brunson, who are also point guards. So all 6 are point guards. So the point guard position is probably the most stacked in the league right now. So I think you can expect this to kind of look like this a little bit, just to be point guard heavy on the guard. So let's move on to our forwards. I had Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak, and Kawhi Leonard. We talked about Kawhi Leonard a little bit, so we don't really need to talk more about him. But Giannis is, kind of like Curry. He's self-explanatory, one of the greatest of his positions of all time, and he's only 27, 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, champion, Finals MVP. I don't need to name everything, but, just know Giannis is one of the greatest at his position of all time. And in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion, he's the best in the league right now. I think it's between him and Steph Curry for the 1 and 2, but I think Giannis takes it. And Giannis can do everything, man. And he's even developing a jump shot, which I think we're going to see more of this season. And he could be a MVP candidate, like he has been for 5 straight seasons, which is pretty crazy. So, and then the Bucks are obviously championship contenders, like they also have been for some time now. So, it's self-explanatory with these 2 guys.
It really is. Giannis is just a beast. You can open up mine. I have LeBron and Giannis. As we already talked about Kawhi on your list, we've already talked about a little bit about Giannis and LeBron here. LeBron with the Lakers, I feel like they're gonna have a better record this year due to the fact they're getting younger pieces. They're not gonna have a great roster. I think they barely make play-in, a little better than they did last year. Hopefully they can get a Westbrook trade off of here and get Kyrie, because that would be great for them. I think Lakers, if they get Kyrie, instant contenders, instantly. And then Giannis, his team, championship contenders already, like they have been the past few years. The amazing roster. Giannis is the most dominant player in the league. Who's stopping this man? This man is 7 foot 15, able to dunk the basketball from heaven. He's that guy, and so is LeBron. It's going to be hard to stop. These two being on the first All NBA team, it just makes sense to me. It just clicks. It just is. It's just self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think a Russell Westbrook trade does happen. There's been some rumors, but for a three-team trade between Knicks, Jazz, and Lakers, where uh, Russ goes to the Jazz to get bought out, Donovan goes to the Knicks, and Lakers just, obviously the good thing about this trade is getting rid of Russell Westbrook to free up $45 million to hopefully go get some, you could sign Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton's not going to take $45 million, so you could sign him. Hopefully the Cavs don't match. You'll have money to overpay a little bit so that the Cavs will not match. Um, so I think LeBron though like you said, you think they are a play-in team. I don't think a play-in team gets you the first seed, especially over guys like Kawhi Leonard. Um, but if they are better and they do make the playoffs, I could totally see first team for LeBron, especially if he breaks the record for points. I think there's going to be a little bias. Oh, LeBron broke the all-time record for points. Put him in the first team. I think that could happen. But let's move on to our centers. Everybody knows who it is. Joel Embiid, Jokic, interchangeable. Joel Embiid, I already talked about, why I had him over Jokic. I think Jokic has the voters fatigue, and that's why I have him over Jokic. Obviously, super dominant, amazing center. Not much else to be said.
100%. We already talked about a little bit about Jokic over. I've talked a little bit about Jokic over Embiid. Back-to-back MVP. I think the voter fatigue will kick in for MVP talk. Jokic won't get MVP again this season, but I think he still gets first All NBA team. It won't make sense, but I feel like that's just going to be the way it's going to happen due to the fact that just the way he plays. He's an amazing player, and he helps lead his team to playoffs each year. So him not being on first All NBA team, I mean, unless Embiid gets a little bit more help, I feel like he's going to be just constantly getting more tired and tired of him having to do all this work and then get bounced out of playoffs. Yeah. Like he had help from Ben Simmons, no more help. Help from James Harden, no more help.
Yeah, I think both these guys are on championship caliber teams when fully healthy. So I think these two guys are totally interchangeable, and it's really tough to rank them. I have Jokic higher, like I have him as a better player, because he has been the back-to-back MVP and Joel Embiid hasn't. So I do have him better, but it's really hard in a season to, like in an individual season, like ahead of us to predict who's better, just because it is so close every single year. But
Right.
these are all NBA teams. It's probably not right, but I feel like we are pretty close. I feel like it's gonna look a little bit like this, But obviously, not everybody stays healthy. Somebody could have a season-ending injury, kind of like Damian Lillard did last season. So, or Kawhi Leonard, he didn't play at all. So, anything could really happen. An injury could happen to any single person. They cannot play, and then somebody else would take their spot, which would be very unfortunate. But that always happens. So this doesn't mean that our lists are going to be right. But I feel like we are pretty accurate. But that's all we've got for today.